Welcome to Tales from the Golden Imp. I am Joe Craig, the Impish Skull. Last time we saw the contemplation over what to do next and where to go. All roads point to Durg. What aid will come, and will it be in time? During the process of messages sent and received, Dandros had a disturbing dream about Durg as well. He received a message from beyond about his fate and future. But what will come of it? Vidin prepares for war and leaves Alana in charge of Feldus. And while getting provisions, Jaina got the approval of the temple, which she reports to, and had a few drinks with the Lady of Chunda. They all prepared to hit the road. But what troubles await them? We will find out in this episode of the Calmbringer Cycle. Welcome to Tales from the Golden Imp. Note, there's a correction from last episode about the ice flow canal. In the prior episode, I stated it was about to break free from being frozen over. However, this is incorrect. The ice flow canal is open during the season and would be freezing over soon instead. We are in the harvest time, so fall or autumn in Calidria, in this region of Edius. Episode 8, Frozen Roads. Jaina, Regos, and Meg all gathered around the donkey that they had purchased as a beast of burden to carry the supplies they would need for the trek. They had a week of travel ahead of them on the road and a few days by ship. Regos was looking worse for wear from lack of sleep. As they traveled through the northern gate of the city and they passed the entrance of the crypts to the ancient days of Chunda, he thought to himself about the secrets that crypt held. He also thought that if it was up to him, those crypts would stay sealed. Only bad things will come from there. Regos learned many of the secrets of Chunda in the few hours that he got to read through the journals. So much so that he wished that he had weeks to spend there. The history around the Throne of Bone itself was something that he wished he had time to dig into. The rumors about the origins of the throne were something that he could write books about. Jaina waved over to Esmeralda as they left the city. As the road turned north, the roads continued to climb through higher elevations as the road twisted and turned around the spines of the Dragon-Tooth Mountains. The group continued to travel into the night until they found an area to go to bed down for the evening. They set up watches. Regos had wished to read one of the books that he borrowed from the Durf household, though Meg really wanted him to take the last watch so he could get some sleep. The two argued the fact until Jaina had them dice off to see who would take which watch. Regos won the dice game, so he got his way, and he took the first watch so he could finish his reading. Meg protested, but the dice didn't lie, though it was an odd bounce that the dice took. All was quiet, aside from the wind throughout the night. As dawn was breaking, there was a rumble that was felt before it was heard. Meg put her hand on the ground and felt the boom, 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 which puzzled her. There was a pause, and then it happened again. 4 this time. Boom, boom, boom. She could hear the last one. She started getting the others up while scanning the horizon for what would be making that noise. There was a screech to the sky that followed with the constant stream of the booms. They were now audible, let alone the amount of vibration that was felt from each concussive boom. By this time, everyone was awake, looking around for the source of the noise when a shadow passed overhead. The shadow was the broad-winged silver dragon. The group hugged the ground as the dragon screeched once more. The thuds of the ground was shaking now, as a frost giant was running full tilt. The dragon swooped in, released its breath, targeting the ground. As frost covered the ground as a sheen of ice, the frost giant slipped. This was all the dragon needed to dive in and knock the massive 22-foot tall giant to the ground. Unluckily, this was all too close to the campsite for the group's comfort. Either of these could easily kill them, so being in the middle of the whole ordeal was not what they were looking for. As they quickly gathered up their bedrolls and the like, the giant was beginning to rise when the whole world shook. The massive silver dragon slammed into the giant hard, with all four claws rending the massive form. As the giant's head slammed against the ground and bounced ever so slightly up, the silver maw of the dragon bit into the giant's throat, spraying a crimson font across the ground. Taking their chance, their group got to their feet and proceeded to advance down the road. Meg managed to get the donkey that was tied off around the bend settled enough to run in the correct direction. Jaina was next to follow, leaving Regos to pull up the end, as he had the most possessions laying about. To his horror, combatants shifted slightly, but enough for the large silver tail to block the road towards freedom. The dragon was digging into its meal, and in the process was bouncing its tail in pleasure. Interrupting a dragon from its meal would certainly be a way to be added to the menu. The massive tail bounced off the ground once more. Regos approached the tail, calculating the time with each bounce. He waited for the tail to bounce once more. As soon as the tail hit the ground, he went to leap over it, but managed to skid to a halt just before his leap as the tail bounced up it once again. Unfortunately, Regos slid on the ice himself and had to launch himself forward to try to clear the tail. Completely out of control, he bounced over the tail, hitting one of the spines. As Regos rolled head first onto his back and then coming to a stop, he was looking up towards the head of the dragon when that head, covered in gore, turned to the thing that had interrupted his meal. This adult dragon let out a massive roar, sending waves of fear through Regos, Meg, Jaina, and the poor donkey. The fear was palpable, and it ripped through them to the core. Jaina, gripped by this fear, prepared to fight. Meg dropped to the ground, covering herself, preparing for the end. And Regos? Well, he was scurrying to his feet like a small little mouse. As the beast turned back to her meal, Regos managed to get Meg and started pulling her up out of the acceptance of fate. He was following the donkey that was doing the smart thing by running away. It was running away with all their provisions, however. Jaina! Let's go while we have the chance. I don't think she'll give us another. Meg, darling, I need you on your feet. We have to go. Jaina snapped back to the present and helped Meg to her feet. Meg was crippled with the fear that the dragon was spewing. Just being in the presence of such a beast was a terrifying prospect. They managed to run, though. They caught up with the donkey and continued on cautiously around the next bend. They were calming down the donkey as they were watching the skies. They continued. As the sun rose, they realized they were in the shadow of the dragon's maw, a peak known for the population of silver dragons that resided there. That was the likely home of this dragon. Where there were one, there could be more. Balancing between caution and outright desire to run, they found a middle ground to move swiftly out of the shadow of that collection of peaks. They were at the highest point of the western front of the Dragon-Tooth Mountains. They were on the western side of the peaks as the road curved around them. Luckily, there was no snow or fog, as the road through this portion of the mountains was hard to follow as it was. And so they continued towards the northern port city of White Harbor. As the sun rose in Malatin, The elves were getting ready to leave and head to their next destination. Olaf was inspecting the efficiency of the military forces, thinking to himself that they would soon be building their own army. He dreaded comparing the forces that he would be able to field to these professional soldiers. Olaf wasn't the only one that was walking amongst these soldiers. Dandros was also walking about, looking for the commander of the forces. The two dwarves came together in an open space between the two rocks. Lord Durf, you got any idea who's in charge? I was looking for someone to stand around watching the flow, but everyone seems to be getting their hands dirty. Respect. Dandros called out to Olaf as the two dwarves clasped hands. Ah, Dandros. Glad I could catch you before I headed out myself. You'll be wanting to talk to Sir Gillard Tones, the dark-skinned lad over there. Laughing a bit at himself. Lad, I say, he's likely 10 times my elder. But no, I'm glad I caught you. I wanted to thank you for your aid that you provided to the people of Chunda. Being a Malatinian, it means double, that you were willing to bury the hatchet and do what was right. For that, I thank you. Continuing the clasp, looking Olaf in the eyes. It was only the right thing to do. I was just doing my part in this whole ordeal. I have long thought our little feud was something that we just used to keep us apart, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it were started by an enemy of both peoples. But you are welcome, Lord Durf. Taking his other hand to the back of Dandros and releasing the clasp. Now get off with you. Get to Sir Tones before he's off, and away before you get your say. Dandros nodded and thanked Olaf once more before heading over to Sir Tones. Tones was helping his men and women to load the baskets that the rocks would carry. He excused himself from the line when he saw Dandros approach. Journeyman Dandros, well met. You look like a man on a mission. Is there some assistance I can provide? Tones extended his hand to clasp hands with Dandros, accepting the hand and giving a slight bow. Yes, Sir Tones. I'm looking to see if you're heading to Durg, and if so, I'm hoping to catch a ride. Tones respected the directness of the request. Tones nodded. Yes, we have one rock heading to Durg. Though the route will be dangerous. We will have to travel close to a known nest of black dragons as we approach it by air. With that said, I cannot guarantee your safety, but you're welcome to travel with us. It's the first basket here. You'll have an hour to load yourself and what you need for the trip, but pack light. Adding you will nearly put us at weight. As for Captain Lonti, she leads that group and saw the least amount of combat, so we're hoping that her luck continues. With that, Dandros headed over to the lighter-skinned elven woman with auburn hair. He introduced himself to her and then quickly left to gather his pack and the stone hammer that he kept above his altar. For some reason, he felt he would need it before his feet found a way to his door once more. As he took the hammer in his hand, he kneeled to say a prayer to Beldon for a safe journey. He also took up an old dusty book made of stone pages. Each page was made of a different stone. The book was something he hadn't picked up in years, not since he became a miner. He flipped through the pages as he said his prayer. Dandros' faith never wavered in Beldon. It had only wavered in himself. He did not feel he was worthy of the blessing in which Beldon bestowed upon him. With hope, he prayed for the safety of Meg, Jaina, and Regos. He prayed that their paths would cross. And finally, he prayed that he would find the truest meaning of his craft. He chose to work stone, but as Beldon, he presumed it was Beldon, had put it, that can mean a lot of different things. For now, he took the stone hammer and his book of stone pages and placed them in his bag and set off for the basket that would be his ride to Durg. After loading his pack into the basket, he began to help the elves load their goods as well. Seems they were taking some provisions to hold them over for a bit. Were they expecting trouble on the road, or were they merely preparing for the worst? It was hard to tell. It would be a 2-day flight from what the reports were. And the first day wasn't the concern. The second day, however, seemed to be the sticking point. They would fly from Malatin due east, alight for the night just north of the Darkwood Forest. There they would allow the rock to rest, and themselves to get a bit of relaxation before the next leg of the journey. From there they would continue east with a slight northern track to put them to the north of the Dragon Eye Lake to set down around nightfall to the outer doors of the caves that led to Durg. There was a little city that had developed there, and it was nicknamed Little Durg, when in fact it was named Kievstown. In Kievstown they would find boarding for the rock, lest they sent it back home. From there it would be into the caves of Durg. That was the plan anyway. How would reality play out this time? Plans seldom went the way they were planned. And so the pieces were in motion. To the north went Regos, Meg, and Jaina. To the east went Dandros. To the south went the leadership. That was the Council of Edius to meet in Karos. How many pieces were moving for the enemy? So far we only knew of the Skald and her lot, but there had to be more at play. Where was Callisto and the other sentinels? Were they on the board yet, or still in reserve? Well, far to the west, in the kingdom of Kredo, a woman tends to the stone statue of a woman overlooking the great ice cliffs that Kredo is known for. It is the town of Lyseria. This woman stands tall, lean, showing markings of an elf. She is dressed for the cold that Lyseria is accustomed to. The statue that she is tending is a face that is beautiful and also an elven woman. She tends the statue as a mother cleans a small child. The attention to detail is something extreme. The woman has her long red hair pulled back at the wings to keep her face clear so she can focus on her work. She applies waxes to the face and lips of the statue. As she finishes, the woman speaks to the statue. "My lady, I will do this which you ask of me. I understand not why the ask is upon me, and the charge is mine to carry, but I shall carry it for you. I know that you cannot carry out this task without aid. I will find this Megan Nevarro and give her what is due. Worry not, my lady. You have put your faith in the right one. You have my eyes, my lady. I swear to you that I will find this woman and give her what is due." The woman's purple eyes gleamed in the dark, not from control, but from the passion in which they held. Raising her dark hood, she bowed to the statue as she stood before, and joined another woman dressed in the same furs and the dark blue hood of their own, with the same purple eyes. The second woman stated directly, "The ship awaits you, my lady." "Good. My work here is done. Now we seek sister. Bring with us the silent ones that I asked for. We may need them before our work is completed," the First Lady said with a smile as she turned back to the statue, looking it over once more. Pleased with her work, she allowed herself to be guided to the basket-shaped elevator that would lower them down the 600 feet of the glacial wall to the floor below. The two women were joined by two more women dressed in dark leathers, each with a single dagger on their hip and a kukri on the other hip. These women said nothing. They moved sure-footed and specific with each step. They moved in a way a weapon would move if you gave it legs and a spine. Not a word was uttered from them. These two also had the same purple eyes. They boarded a ship with dark blue Alistinian silk sails, and the ship cast off. After the ship was launched, the captain of the ship, an olive-skinned man, called over to the First Lady. "Where to, my lady?" "Edius, Finnik. We are heading to Edius. We follow our quarry to at least Edius. I'll be in your captain's chambers if you need me, Finnik." "Very well, my lady Essemine. You heard it, boys. To Edius." With that, the living organism that was the last word went to work to get the ship to the sea. The last word cut to the west to leave the cove and join the ocean beyond. Later that night in the Dragontooth Mountains, north of the Dragon's Maw, Jaina, Regos, and Meg were at odds trying to set up camp. This time they were a bit more exposed to the wind, so starting the fire was a challenge they were facing. Regos was smoking his pipe, as the two women were determined to light the fire without the use of magic. They were close enough to home to be safe from most predators. They did have a few to worry about, but a fire will keep all those at bay. And so, after a few minutes, there was celebration from Jaina and Meg as they had the first flickers of flame. They shared a high five with a "see, we didn't have to resort to magic after all" look over to Regos. Regos gave a smile and a slow applause. "Very good, girls. Nice to see that if I were to drop dead, you could still light a fire without me." They heated up some stew in a pot over the open fire. They shared in a good hot meal with ample firewood to keep things going, though they had to keep it low. There were still no trees around, so this was part of the provisions they had packed and loaded on the donkey. The donkey had been called Holly at this point, so Holly would be her name. Regos put a sack on Holly to get some oats in her stomach. Regos liked the thing, even though he normally wasn't that much of an animal person. Well, aside from cat. He liked cats, after all. They were curious and clever and had quick reflexes. You could learn a lot from a cat. Regos settled down in his bedroll, using the firelight from the campfire to read by. It wasn't perfect, but neither was the book. The author of this particular tome was not a skilled pensman, nor a wordsmith. But the contents were worth his time. It was an account of the third Lord of Chunda after the disposal of the tyrant of Edius. It was an account of the use of bloodstones and the focus of the bloodstone pillars that were actively being destroyed. It was he that decided that the obelisk just south of Chunda should stand to be studied. It was also he that sealed the crypts the first time, it would seem. But a ruler came along and thought history of the crypts would be more useful and opened them back up. These records were accurate, and Regos believed that they could be. Chunda was sitting on a problem, just waiting for the right pressure to ignite. The book contained rubbings from not only the obelisk buried within the city crypts, but the one to the south of the city. It was interesting to see the similarities, but also the differences. They had the markers for the lines of convergence or ley lines on them, and something of a sequence marker, so they were potentially sequential. It was all very interesting to him, but so much so that he took the first watch so he could keep reading for a bit. As the fire was dying down, he went to add a bit more firewood when he noticed glowing red eyes lit by the firelight. These embers reflected by the fire, but stayed just outside the bounds of light, far too close for Regos' comfort. They were surrounded and being stalked. Trying not to excite the beasts, he tapped Jane on the foot to wake her. "Slowly, we've got wolves at the door," he warned. Jane had started to jolt up, but held to slow reactions. She was sleeping next to her glaive, so she rose with it. Meg was next. Nice and slow, Regos made his way over to Meg, tapped her on the foot to wake her up as well. Meg started awake. Regos shushed her. "Wolves at the gate, darling. From the looks of it, we have a group of about 4 of them." As Meg rose, "What of Holly?" she whispered. "So far, so good. She was over next to me, and it should have alerted me sooner to the presence of wolves. So how do we want to handle this? Magic? Blade? Or making a big show hoping they aren't that hungry? Tossing a ham over to them? We could eat off that salted pork for several days, but I like my skin more than salted pork." Regos was moving over to Holly while speaking in an even tone. Jaina nodded, circling with one of the wolves. "I like the salted pork option. It's worth a try. If they ignore it, we can always clean it off and still eat it. They're probably more hungry than anything else, so a fight for food, or free food, is likely a good bet. Salted pork," Meg reasoned. Regos made for the binds that were holding the salted ham to Holly and cut the tie, giving him a little bit of rope to work with. "All right, but if they lunge for me when I toss this, please save me. I'm far too fragile to be eaten by wolves, and pretty to boot." "All right, lads and ladies, I'm going to give you this nice salted pork, and you all are going to leave us be. Doesn't that sound like a wonderful deal?" Regos spoke to the wolves while swinging the pork in the air to make sure the wolves could get a good smell of the pork. He tossed the pork amongst 3 of the pair of glowing eyes, and delighted in the fact that they went dark as they darted for the pork. Before they knew it, one of the wolves had made off with the prize, and the others had set to pursue, with one last one giving the group a small growl prior to heading off to find his pack. With that, they settled back in to rest for the remainder of the night, hoping that it would be wolf-free. Regos thought to himself as he nestled into the bedroll, "Ain't the gods their eyes weren't purple?" The next morning, just north of the Darkwood Forest, the contingency from Malatin broke camp after a peaceful night. The Rock, this large bird, large enough to pick up an elephant, had a meal along with the troops. Dandros was doing his morning prayers while flipping through the stone prayer book that he hadn't looked at in years. The memories of crafting each page came back to him in waves. The initial prayers that were transcribed were so much more sloppy compared to the latter pages. Dandros finished off his prayers and continued to break camp. The easy part of the flight was out of the way. It was the more dangerous leg of the journey next. They would be traveling north of the Dragon Eye Lake, which was known to be a nest of an ancient black dragon. Catharsis was her name, and the Dragon Eye Lake was her domain. Regardless of what human population thought of it, Catharsis might let them pass, but only time would tell. She held a tight grip over her domain. She was a constant threat to the southern ranges of the Dragontooth Mountains, the Darkwood Forest, and of course a constant threat to the land of Durg. By the solemn looks upon the faces of the troops, all were thinking about that fact. Combined forces loaded up in the large basket, and a rider climbed aboard the rock. The sun was rising as the rock took to the sky. She flew a large circle before swooping down to grasp the basket in her large talons. To the sky they went, over a blanket of dark green fir trees. The fir trees gave way to the Dragon Eye Lake. As the rock flew over the lake, with the sun high in the sky, the troops were enjoying a midday snack, all relaxing in the sunlight. These were some of the last warm days that they would have before winter rolled in, and everyone was trying to enjoy it. As the troops shared a laugh, a shadow passed over the rock and the basket. First one, then a second. The rock rider let out a whistle, which was a sign for everyone to ready themselves for combat. Seconds later, the rock took to the skies in true earnest. As the rock streaked up into the clouds, the two shadows took the form of two smaller black dragons. The younger black dragons looked upon the rock as if they had found themselves a meal. The rock by itself would be a formidable opponent, but she was carrying a load, which would limit her movement. Another whistle came from the rock rider, and the troops raised their bows and held their aims true. The sound of that whistle was almost like an alarm bell. As soon as the soldiers had raised their bows, the two dragons flew in for an attack. Opening their mouths, the two dragons released a torrent of acid from their throats. As the green acid flew toward the rock, the soldiers released a torrent of arrows of their own. After the arrows were released, the rock dove towards the acid to fly below the two torrents. As the rock cleared the acid, she rose toward the dragons. The soldiers re-knocked their bows as the first round of arrows found their mark. Most of those arrows bounced off the thick scales of the dragons, but a few found purchase. These arrows were not strong enough in general, to pierce the armor of the dragons. That wasn't going to stop the archers from trying, though. This is where Dandros came in. He focused his prayers on the captain and her bow. As the captain took aim, Dandros' hand began to glow, as did the bow. She took aim just as the left dragon opened its mouth and released another blast of acid. As the arrow launched from the bow, the glow transferred from the bow to the arrow, and the arrow streaked into the mouth of the dragon. As it did, there was an explosion of energy. As a pulse of energy and the arrow found its mark, the dragon recoiled in pain. The second dragon streaked in to attack the rock. The rock, on instinct, released one claw from the basket to fend off the attack. The basket dipped to one side, forcing the soldiers to act quickly to not fall out of the basket. As the dragon and the rock clashed in the sky, the rock bit into the wing of the dragon, and its claws rended the chest of the dragon, while the dragon bit deeply into the rock's neck and grabbed onto the rock's chest with all four claws. The two beasts spun on impact, and the soldiers were just along for the ride at this point. The rock rider had stabbed at the dragon with the long spear that he was carrying. This was more to pry the dragon off the rock than anything else. The rock bit deeply into the back of the dragon, now that she could take better aim. With a tearing action, the dragon went limp from the head down. The rock rider was able to pry the jaws of the dragon free from the rock, and the dragon plummeted to the earth. That left one dragon who was recovering from the arrow. The rock grabbed at the basket and leveled it back out, in time for the dragon to streak in once more. The soldiers quickly got to their feet and steadied their aim to the remaining dragon. It was flying wounded, but still flying. The wave of arrows flew toward the dragon. That was enough of a deterrent to get the dragon to pull up and cover itself with its wing, blocking the wall of arrows. The dragon peeled off after that to escape. The rock let the small dragon go, focusing on the mission at hand. With that, the rock concentrated his bearings and continued on to Durg. But the soldiers were now vigilant and watching for more dragons. Mother would not be pleased by the death of one of her children. And if she moved from her nest, there would be nothing to prevent her from devouring them. They were fortunate to only lost one soldier in the encounter. Dandros felt good in being useful, even though he had never shot a bow in his life. And so they went that final leg to land in the small city of Kievstown. The clear skies only helped make the skies easy to watch. On edge, the soldiers watched the skies, not allowing their guard to drop until they landed in the square of Kievstown. The arrival of the rock and the basket of soldiers from the Great Falls Forest drew a crowd. The rock was seen as a threat at first, but once the forces saw that she wore the livery of Great Falls Forest, they realized the rock meant them no harm. With the basket set down, the rock landed on a near side wall. She was bleeding still from the attack of the Dragon's Eye Lake. She was licking her wounds and allowing for the rider to dismount. By the time that all this had transpired, a few members of the guard came out to the basket. The commander who fired the second arrow in the dragon's mouth greeted the guardsmen after a brief introduction. She quickly informed them that they were trying to head off a band of goblins that were heading to Durg, and wanted to make sure the city of Durg was not caught unaware. Lodging for the rock was procured, not easily, but they found something that would do. The rock rider would have to remain back with the rock to make sure her needs were met. After a meal, the soldiers set up camp and prepared for the final leg of the journey to Durg. It would be nearly half a day underground before they would reach the city itself. As the sun crested over the lonely peaks of the Dragontooth Mountains that the city of Kievstown was tucked away amongst, Dandros and the soldiers entered into the massive gates to enter the tunnel that would lead them to the city of Durg. These massive gates were carved from the stone of the mountain with intricate braiding and large dwarven script over the top of the arch. That dwarven script read, "Welcome, friends. May your passage be of peace." Enchanted lanterns were hanging from the roof of the tunnel to give light all the way through the passage. The light was dim, but bright enough to see the history of the city of Durg carved into the walls. For most in the party, this was the first time they had been to Durg, so it was breathtaking for them to see the precision and the detail that was carved into the walls. They were not alone, as the road was busy with traveling merchants moving to and from the city itself to resupply on goods or provide food for the city. Durg had gardens, but this was mostly for different mushrooms and things that grew in the dark. The biggest import for the city was food, a fact that always made them susceptible to a siege. Durg had running water from the heart of the mountain, but food for the city as large as theirs, they just didn't have enough food to go around without a constant supply of wagons coming to the city. It was good business for the traveling merchants and the like. Truth be told, it was one of the reasons why Kievstown and Port Skara were around. Both cities were sources of food for the city of Durg. Port Skara provided the city with seafood and imports via the ice flow canals, while Kievstown provided them grains, vegetables, and the like, as well as food from the rest of Edius. They were vital to the ecosystem of Durg. As winter approached, the storerooms were to be built up. It was harvest time. Periodically along the way, there were fountains from natural springs of the mountain. These became small trade hubs and waypoints for the travelers to and from Durg. All these faces without a care. To them, the calm was intact, and Dandros wished in his heart of hearts that he could stop all this before the calm was taken from them. Dandros was deep in thought about his life and his time in the city of Durg, just watching the faces of the people around him. How he wanted them to be able to enjoy their toil and simple lives for so much longer. But gasps brought him out of his revelry. Starting for his weapon at first, before realizing that they had made it to the city of Durg, and these gasps were due to the spread of the city laying out before them. The great stair lay before them, and it was truly the heartblood of the city. It was the main artery from which all roads split forth. The combination of lamps and a massive quartz crystal that lay at the apex of the cave provided sunlight, though dim, lit the city up like thousands of fireflies in the night. Dwarven engineering at its finest, works that the elves that were with him had never seen before. The great masterpiece, the city of Durg. Lower corner, Beldon. Beldon, Lord of the Forge. It is he who guides our hammers. It is he that gives us the gift to create. Lord of iron, bronze, gold, and stone. Lord of the fires that breathes light into the stone. Life into the iron. He who breathes life into the mountain and forces it to spill forth its blood with his mighty hammer strokes. The priest of Beldon, a hearth-time prayer. Beldon is a dwarven god depicted as having a long red beard that is said to wrap around Calidria 3 times. The first wrap is for the rock, the second for iron, and the third wrap is for fire. He is Lord of the Forge and the chief god of Durg. The dwarven people that worship him believe that the volcanoes are caused by Beldon's hammer strokes reshaping the mountains. Beldon is always imaged with a large hammer and a braided beard, wearing a smith's apron. His hair is depicted as long and pulled back with an iron tube engraved with knotwork. Generally, he is seen as serious and fierce. The dwarven priests see him as a great creator as well. They believe that it was he that forged Calidria, then forged the dwarves from the stone of the mountain and hair from his beard. And to cut the beard of Beldon is a cardinal sin for the dwarven followers. Priesthood. Potential priests begin their training at the age of 5. They can be chosen by priests, or if their parents feel the child has the potential, they can give him or her to the Great Forge for their trials. All orphans of Durg are also brought in, as they feel an orphan has lost all and can be blessed the most with what they have to give. The call is given on the day of Beldon, the longest day of the year. Each initiate will be given a hammer 1/4 of their weight and a block of iron equal to their weight. These are set on one of the veins of the mountains that flows. The vein is covered with a platform for the initiates to stand upon. The stone platform is hot enough to cook food upon. Their task is to beat the block of iron into 5 7-pound bricks of iron. They are then given the task of stacking them into any structure that they wish. They cannot rest until this task is completed. The structure will be reviewed as the young ones stand behind their work. Only their work is seen by the priests that will begin their training. There is no number set to how many will be chosen. Instead, it is more about the quality of work that they can accomplish. Once they have passed this initial test, they are called Orcasts. They will begin the apprenticeship process, working with other masters on learning an art that is their religion, blacksmithing. They will work to learn the ways of smithing and the ways of Beldon. They will remain in training at the forge until they can craft their book of Beldon's ways. This book is a record of what they know. This book will begin small and will be made of a material the same as their specialty. They begin making their first book when they become full apprentices of the forge. Completion of the book and having it approved by a brother of the forge will mark them in elevating their rank to journeyman at the forge. At this level of their training, they must now journey into the world to begin applying what they know and learning more on their own. Once they run out of space in their current book, they must make a larger book. The older book must be sent back to the forge, so no part of it can be used. Once sufficient knowledge and understanding has been gained, as well as proper quality, the journeyman will be called back to the forge. They will be given a test to progress to the brother of the forge. This rite of passage gives them the ability to live as craftsmen in Durg or continue to travel the world to build their own forge. The goal of this level is to produce an item of quality to support a town, a village, or a kingdom. The brother continues to send their books back when they have filled the prior. The masters of the forge keep a watchful eye on the knowledge held within and use this themselves to train or learn to increase their knowledge in hopes of one day the title of Grand Master of the Forge. Part of their tests and requirements is to train others. Their ability to teach is as important as their ability to do. As Grandmaster, they continue to do more of the same, leading and instructing the other masters. At this level, they are expected to be such skilled craftsmen that they can craft an item that would be held as a work of art. Beldon's hand is the head overseer of the entire priesthood. There is only one, and another is chosen by the Grand Master should the fires of Beldon take the hand home to the Eternal Forge. The priesthood is open to man and woman. Though there are a few women in the priesthood, the priesthood is not closed to them, nor are they slighted against in any way. The evolution of the call. Over time, Beldon called to his followers that the craft was more important than what craft they were seeking. He then chose some of the greatest craftsmen in the world and guided them to Durg to expand the faith from just smithing to something more of a god of craftsmanship. Stonemasons, sculptors, cooks, and other craftsmen were chosen. Warriors and tacticians were added, as warcraft was a craft. It was then that the faith began to grow rapidly. Temples of Beldon began to be erected outside the city of Durg, and private smithies. The stoneworkers were being hired by kingdoms all over Lyseria to build bridges, castles, and all sorts of other items. The followers of Beldon were contracted for sculptures of kings, nobles, and other gods. The tradition remained intact for the call of initiation. However, what that initiates were required to work was expanded to reflect the different crafts. Pots filled with clay, rough wood hewn to the specifications of the craftsman. Gold and other metals were melted and poured into ingots. Gemstones were sorted. Every material that the Master of the Forge required were handled by initiates. Beldon discovered over time that everyone has a craft. That craft should drive and direct the person's life, as that would allow the purest passions of the heart to flourish. Many brothers and masters of the forge will ask those that they greet, "What is your craft?" As the faith grew with Beldon's guidance, so did the journals of the followers carry with them. The journal was to represent what the practitioner had learned and needed to reflect the craft. The journal also told the story of the craftsman. Upon the passing into the forge fire, the journal was added to the archives of Durg, if not passed down to an apprentice or a family member. The journal was only passed down to a family member if they too shared the craft. Passing a journal down to an apprentice was something rare, and only exceptional apprentices that the master felt the apprentice truly possessed the power to drive and surpass the records held within the master's journal. By the time the Age of Strife was coming to a close, the title Lord of the Forge did not seem appropriate any longer. But it was kept from the legacy of Beldon, the ranks of priesthood, Orcast, Bloomeries, Wrought Ones, Apprentice of the Forge, Journeyman of the Forge, Brother of the Forge, Master of the Forge, Grand Master of the Forge, Beldon's Hand. Code and ethic. Everyone has a craft. Following that craft is the passion of the heart. A craftsman is only as good as the work they can produce. Honing the craft is honing the body, mind, and soul. A craft feels a need that is far more important than the coin it can produce. Orphans are lost souls that are raw materials. Treat them well and offer to hone them. If the craft is strong, then their feet should be set down to the road of Beldon. Beards are sacred to the followers of Beldon. To cut it is a crime punished by death unless the person has dishonored their craft. By doing so, they will lose their beard as a result. For those that cannot grow beards, hair is used in its place. The craft is sacred. Do not extort it, cheat at it, or use it unjustly. Colors and symbols. Orange, red, and brown are the colors of Beldon. The symbol is a hammer and an anvil in a ring of fire. Favored weapons of priests are either weapons that they have forged themselves. Favored weapons of the priests are either a weapon they have forged themselves or a tool of the trade. Well, travelers, I want to thank you once again for traveling with me. In this episode, we traveled in the different directions, but all roads seem to lead to Durg. We also met with a group of women with purple eyes that seemed to have something in store for our dear Meg. We also got the first glimpse of the great city of Durg. Did our travelers awaken a sleeping beast in catharsis, or will she remain at rest? Have the soldiers in Dandros made it to Durg in time, or has the Skald infiltrated the city of Durg already? We will find the answers to this and more in the next episode of the Calmbringer Cycle. I want to thank Adrian Von Ziegler for the use of his music as a part of this podcast. With that said, I want to thank you for listening. And if you wish to support the podcast, a rating where you find it would mean a lot, or a simple thumbs up. If you want to support the podcast a bit more and get the recipes of Calidria in your kitchen, as well as additional lore content, please support me over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/goldenimpn. Signing up will give you access to our Discord server. I hope to build a great community over there. But I can only do that with you. So won't you join us and join the conversation? And if you want to follow me outside the podcast space, you can find me over on Blue Sky at Impish Skald. With that said, I am Joe Craig, the Impish Skald. Thank you for listening, and remember, you've been scalded.